I'm talking about the song "Carry Me," one that I wrote. But I feel like there's probably a little bit of a backstory that you need to know for it to make some sense. I'm not going to get into details. Most of you don't know my story. My life took a crazy turn 2 years ago. Everything that I had built up and was fighting for was taken away in a single sentence. And I spun into this crazy, dark spiral of questioning my faith and trying to figure out why God would allow things to happen the way He was allowing them to happen. And it's interesting because I was on my way to Metro. I had set up a meeting with Greg and Jeremy to resign as the worship leader. I just didn't feel I was fit to do it at that point with all that was going on at home. And I walked in. They were sitting in Baxter's, and I had to walk by Angie's office in order to get to them for that meeting. And as I got to the door, which was about 20 feet before them, Angie called me into her office, and she said, somebody left you a gift here. And I walked in, and here's this Gibson Les Paul that a young lady that I had never met before had left. Her and her mother had wrote little notes inside the gig bag. And just to sum up, basically just said, thank you for what you do. And at the end of each of their letters written differently, both of them had written in different words, whatever you do, don't stop leading worship. God's using you to touch people. And my heart just broke. I had my little girl there, and I just broke crying in front of Angie, and she's trying to figure out why is he crying. And I walked in, I had a meeting. I didn't resign that day. They knew, but it was a really good reminder for me that God wants to use you. All you need to do is show up. And so I took this guitar and I went home. The first song that I really began to write was the song "Carry Me." And as I was spending my nights, I didn't get any sleep for about 8 months, about maybe an hour or two. So I would just sit in my garage and pray and write and yell and scream at God and battle and work things out. And through that kind of came this song, "Carry Me." And as I hit the verse in Romans 8:28, I'm going to Chad paraphrase, but where it says, God works all things for the good of those who love Him. And I began to question and battle with God about, how are you allowing things like this to happen to me? I love you, I'm serving you. And the realization that the following verse that comes talks about what good He's talking about, and it's not anything to do with making my life good or easy. It says to make me more like Christ. And the realization kind of sunk in that God is not in the business of health and finances. He's in the faith business. He wants our hearts, and He's going to allow anything to happen that's going to make us more like Him. That trumps all things. That trumps even my marriage. God wants the heart. And so I began to write these songs, and this one in particular is real raw as I kind of struggled through the darkness of my nights of being alone in this big empty house, and my kids weren't there. And I got to that chorus and just realizing, man, I need God to carry me. I had a choice to make. I was either going to put my faith in Him or I was going to walk at that point. And the realization that I could not do it on my own. And I made a promise to myself that night, basically, that I would be the man that I pray my girls marry. And so when my faith wasn't strong enough, that kind of lifted me up and held me accountable and forced me to be a better man than I would have been normally or naturally or even default. It just rocked my world. And I got to that bridge part of the song, and I was trying to figure out, how am I going to do this as I was struggling through my prayer and with God. And in Matthew 17:20, where God says, if you have faith as big as or small as a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Nothing is impossible. And I was looking at my situation and all these things spinning out of control that I had no control over, and realizing how impossible it was going to be for me to move forward in any kind of godly way. Now I was talking with Greg and realizing that I can't control anybody else's actions, but I could control my own reactions. And realizing that I was going to need more faith than a mustard seed, because what I needed to do to myself to get me from A to B was nearly impossible for me. And so that's where the bridge came out. Please give me faith more than a mustard seed. I don't want to move a mountain, just me. And then as the chorus explodes into carry me, it took all the strength inside of me to get me on my knees. You know, as a man, we just don't want help. We don't think we need help. We don't want to talk to anybody. And for me to get down on my knees and pray to a God that I was questioning, it really did take more strength, and it took every bit of me to get down on my knees and start praying to a God that I was in a fight with. Well, he wasn't fighting with me, I was in a fight with him. But so this song especially really means a lot to me. It was my prayer, and it is my prayer, but it was literally my prayer song. I pray a lot through music. Music has a way of just ripping through me and tearing down all my walls. And I sang this song every day for at least 7 or 8 months, and I still sing it probably once a week as I'm sitting in my garage and just praying and having my time with God. So my prayer at this point is that darkness that I went through this song can maybe touch you guys a little bit and help you work through things and draw you closer to the God that I know met me right on my place in my garage and carried me.